Cade, city planner Chris Rogers, and Michael Hoffman, city solicitor.
Thank you. We're going to begin with a presentation from Rick Farrell from the state of Delaware about the downtown development districts. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the time that you've allowed me to give a refresher course and maybe we can provide a little bit of an update on the downtown development district program.
Sir, excuse me, if you could speak into the mic, it would help everyone hear you. Is it turned on?
How about now? Is that better? Yeah. My name is Rick Farrell, and I serve as the Community Development Coach, which is a position on behalf of the DSHA, Delaware State Housing Authority, and the Delaware Division of Small Business. It's a contract I've had with the state for the last 6 years or so, providing services to the 12 DDD communities that I'm going to talk a little bit about in a moment, and essentially making sure that they're moving projects along and getting the resources that they need in those communities and augment some of the resources those communities already have. For those of you that are less familiar with the DDD, the Downtown Development District designation, let me just say this. It was the product of legislation that dates back to 2014 when 3 communities, Dover, Seaford, and Wilmington, were initially designated. It's a very competitive process to get this designation. You have to go through a fairly robust application process, which this community did in 2019. But before the 2019 designees were brought into the program, there were a cohort of municipalities in 2016. They are Georgetown, Harrington, Laurel, Milford, and the town of Smyrna. And then 3 years later, the governor opened up another round of opportunities for new applicants. And in that round, Clayton, Delaware City, Middletown, and Newcastle all competed and got that designation. There were some towns in that cohort that competed for it and did not get the designation. The legislation allows for up to 15 communities to be named. Right now, it sits at 12. Capital costs. So it's a program that not only applies to commercial real estate, but to the residential real estate within the district that's designated as a district. So it applies to homeowners, business owners, it applies to nonprofit organizations, tenants in spaces owned by property owners, and it's been very, very robust in Delaware. The QRPI, the real property, the qualified real property investment, basically offers a rebate to the investor. So whether you're the property owner doing a rehab in a home, in your kitchen, or the exterior of the place, or you're a mixed-use property with residential upstairs and commercial downstairs, there are basically 2 flavors of projects, small projects and big projects. A small project is a project that the investor is investing at least $25,000 and up to $350,000. That's considered a small project, and applications are eligible on a rolling basis, meaning that as we go into every new year, when the investor is ready, they're allowed to apply for a small project when they're ready. That is distinguishable from larger projects. And by the way, a small project is $350,000, and if, for instance, you had a remodel that costs $350,000 in a business, say, it would be eligible, that business would be eligible for 20% of those construction costs to come back after they place that project in service. Usually that means pull the certificate of occupancy. So in a $350,000 investment, $70,000 would come back to that investor after they finish the project. On a large project, that's projects that are larger than $350,000, the same dynamic exists, except in this case, there's a cap of $2 million on large projects. The state won't provide more subsidy than $2 million on any project, any large project. But you can see when there's the opportunity to have 20% of an investment come back to the investor, how this could spark new opportunity in the communities that are designated like this. And it's intended to, address deferred maintenance conditions in both our housing stock and our commercial properties statewide. In addition to the DDD rebate, that subsidy isn't the only thing that typically applies when I'm working with an investor. There's typically other things that come into the fold. When Newcastle, for instance, applied for this designation, one of the things they had to do is put in some ideas of the incentives they would offer at the local level in addition to what the state was doing, so that there was some skin in the game for all the communities involved. So there is, of course, some incentives that the local municipality offers in addition to the state, but above and beyond that, there's other often other federal and state incentives that apply to these investments. Lately, there's been a lot coming down the pike in terms of energy conservation and renewable energy, offering small grants and/or loans or low-interest loans for the energy and the efficiency components that you're putting into that remodel or into that commercial upgrade. So oftentimes, while you're in your project, we can look and see if it ticks or checks the box for other incentives that your project may also be eligible for. And in this way, the subsidy can grow beyond that 20 cents on the dollar that's coming back to the investor on the DDD side, but it can be upwards of 40 and 50 cents on the dollar if we find other subsidies that we're not availing ourselves of knowing about while we're in the middle of a project. And you'd be surprised how much is out there and how fluid this situation is with subsidy. Programs are coming out all the time. When we had ARPA money available, there was a whole new level of opportunity that opened up that we dovetailed with these programs, and it was amazing the amount of subsidy and costs that we were able to bring to the table. In addition to those financial resources, DSHA and Division of Small Business administer this program, but it also comes under the auspices of the Office of State Planning as well, and the Office of OMB, Administrative Budget. So there's resources that come to bear that are from the state. In fact, there's a resource team that actually meets with me on a every 5 or 6 week basis, just to make sure if there's anything going on in the field where these designees are working, that if they have some questions that aren't answered, if they're stuck on things, and those resources could help, they're there to do that. They also offer assistance with their website, so oftentimes somebody that is maybe searching for investment in Delaware, not necessarily aware of the community they end up investing in before they're aware of the state they're investing in, those website visits and links to the designated communities can help get them filtered as they refine their search for where they'd like to make investments. And we also do some marketing and outreach. This conversation tonight is sort of an example of that. I'm working right now with Antonina. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we're doing in preparation for a potential workshop later this year as part of that outreach, because the idea is, while this has been around since 2019, it's one of those things sometimes that we find is hiding in plain view. And we'd like to remind people that it exists and encourage you to take advantage of it while it exists. And to not do it on your nickel. Sometimes I gotta tell you, it's very hard for me to do my job to convince people that there is some free money available, because there's often a skepticism, like there's gotta be a catch. And I assure you, there's no catch. It's a very easy process to get through. There's a lot of people that are willing to be resources for it. So you'll find that sometimes people are from the government and they're actually there to help. So in Newcastle, let me just give you a quick overview of the program to date. Since 2015, there's been 64 large projects in the state and 298 small projects. They leveraged $365 million in new private reinvestment in all three counties. In Newcastle, the city of Newcastle, since 2019, you've had 11 small projects and one large project, $400,000 in rebates, and $2.9 million in private reinvestment. The communities in the cohort from 2019 forward were not performing quite the same way as other communities in the state were, and I think that's because we had a COVID era with workforce issues, supply chain issues, and things that put a hiccup in across the board in the state in terms of the program. But I think that in the same time frame going forward, we'll see more activity there across the board in all the jurisdictions in the state. You had a boundary expansion a couple years ago. The way the districts are set up, they're based on parameters related to your population. So given the population, you get a certain amount of acreage for the district to absorb with the program. In getting the designation, you had a certain number of acres, and then you asked for more area to be involved in the program, and that was granted by the cabinet committee that makes those decisions. And shortly during, or it was either during that time frame or shortly thereafter, after your boundary expansion was approved, the cabinet committee approved additional acreage, so you actually have some more in the bank should in the future you decide to do that. And there are people in this room that were part of that discussion and that expansion the last time, so you're actually, as a community, familiar with what the steps are to take that step in the future, should you decide that you'd like to. I think the last thing I'd like to leave you with is, for everyone in the room that's heard this, please share it with people that you impact in the community. Let them know that there is such a program out there, and this can cover things that maybe they've been putting off with their front porch, steps, painting, anything that's construction is considered a real property investment cost, and things that are going to be eligible for people that are interested in reinvesting in the infrastructure of the community. As I said earlier with Antonina, we've been talking about putting together a workshop. That workshop is, and we're drafting the agenda now. If you had any ideas about things you'd like to be in that agenda, I'd love to hear them. What we typically do are give an overview of the program, much like you just heard, And then I like to even give property owners and investors an opportunity to feature a property or two at those conversations. So if someone's sitting on a building with some ideas, the things they want to do with it, we'd let them come and take the mic for a little time and share what they're looking at doing. And that could be a way of pre-marketing for tenants or occupants or whatever it is that they're thinking about doing. I also have worked with communities where we bring the incentive providers in. Maybe I bring Kara Briggs in from Preservation, the State Office of Preservation, and she would talk about how you access, in a more friendly way, an understandable way, how you access historic state tax credits and how you can apply them to a project and dovetail those credits with the downtown development district rebate, so that you're really maximizing the opportunity for subsidies. So maybe someone like that would come in. It might be someone from Energize Delaware to go through a litany of programs in energy efficiency and renewable energy sources that could also end up looking like subsidy for your program. And those kinds of ideas, if there's anything like that that you'd like to hear more about and hear it from maybe a more user-friendly and to the rub kind of approach, we can put that together. If you have other segments, I did one in Wilmington at the end of last quarter, and in that instance, we brought in people for a segment called Minute for Mission, where people within the community that also advance the goals of the community, whether economic or quality of life, have an opportunity to say, hey, I'm here to support anything that looks like it's moving the community forward. Here's my contact information and how you can get me. So we're open to any of those suggestions, and if you would just use your own circles of influence to get the word out that this exists, it would be nice to be overwhelmed with work to do good things. So I appreciate the time to impart that message on you, and if there's time.
I have a couple of quick questions for you. When someone processes this with you as an application, I'm assuming, is there like a time frame? Does the money that if they get approved is up front, or do they have to cover it first and then get reimbursed? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, it is you get reimbursed. However, when I was talking about incentives earlier, CINAIR is a nonprofit community investment, financial institution, I'm sorry. And CINAIR has created a program specifically for DDD applicants that bridge loans the rebate that you're entitled to. So normally, if you don't want to use the bridge loan process, normally what would happen is you would make these improvements, and then after you pull the certificate of occupancy, you have 30 days to tell the state that you're done your project, and they get you a check within 45 days of that notice that you're done the project. Now, if, say for instance, you had that $350,000 project I talked about earlier, you're gonna get a $70,000 rebate after you finish the project. But if you'd rather have the $70,000 up front to pay your contractor and use that and money before rather than after, CINAIR will bridge loan that money to you. You'll pay a individually negotiated carry cost, some percentage of interest for the period of time the loan's open, but when the rebate's issued, you retire that loan. So it's satisfied, and that's equity in the project, basically.
What's the average time to from the application being submitted to being approved?
Normally, on the small projects, because they're on a rolling basis, it's pretty straightforward stuff. You submit that project, you get a real good idea of what your qualified reinvestment costs are. That's the basis for computing the 20% rebate. And once you get that, you're off to the races. It can be very quickly. It's very, the way they have it set up, you're just plugging and playing. When you do the application online, you're dropping your project costs in different columns that qualify or don't, and on the basis of those costs and the qualifying costs, the calculation for the rebate is made. In a large project, it's slightly more time consuming because we have to typically wait for funding rounds to open. In Delaware, we have 2 funding rounds traditionally for the large projects, spring and fall. When a funding round opens, you have about 3 months to apply for it. The awards are made, and when those awards are made, you actually get a reservation that sort of earmarks your rebate, so we can keep tabs of how much money we're doling out and how much we need to. It is competitive, we've never been so subscribed that we haven't been able to fund projects. But as this program matures, we're nearing that point of being oversubscribed every year, every funding round. So it is conceivable that you could apply for a project and be told, we just ran out of money. But that will only be until that fund is recovered in the next budget year. And we've not been in a situation where we told people we didn't have money, but it is possible, in a good way. That means that people are using the program. We have a new governor. The governor that was really responsible for really getting this program off out of the blocks was Jack Markell. Under Governor Carney and the legislature, this seems to be the kind of program, quite frankly, that transcends whether you're a Democrat or Republican. The word in the legislature is it's just been a very successful program across the board, and it's economic development in a either given the same from a previous year or upped it a bit. And there is a bill before the legislature right now. I think it's House Bill 33, and it is to actually augment and supplement corridors in some communities where they not only have traditional downtowns, but they have economic nodes within the municipal boundaries that also need attention, and they want to try to open it up and expand it to those areas as well.
I had one question. In respect to small projects or large projects, it's wintertime, someone does a project that's suiting to this time of the year. It gets done, stops. Then in the spring or summertime, someone comes and does something, outdoor painting or something more amenable to warmer weather. Are they still eligible, or does the work on the project have to be contiguous, is the question.
Really good question. The way it's written in the guidelines is it's required to be contiguous, but what we've learned, particularly COVID and post-COVID, with supply chain issues that were happening, if you were getting Andersen windows for your house, it was out of your control when those windows would actually come in. And so it's, when the language that you read in the guidelines says it needs to be contiguous, what's happening in reality is DSHA looks at that very, very, in a very human way. They say, look, your best efforts are what we're looking for here. What we're trying not to do is earmark money for people and projects that aren't gonna happen, so that we can put it in the hands of people that are gonna move on it. So if you were sitting on a project and your reasons for doing that are suspect or not really valid, and you're not really using best efforts, that's a project that might be in jeopardy. But otherwise, when you're just in a hurry up and wait posture, and you're sort of the victim of weather and things outside of your control, there's always been flexibility in that.
Okay, thank you very much for coming tonight.
My pleasure. I can go out in the cold now, right? All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we are going to depart from the normal order of things because we have as you may have noticed, if you've looked at the agenda, we have some awards to give out, and I think the awardees and family members are here. So we're going to do them next, and then we'll do one other item for someone who has to leave, and then we'll revert to the normal routine with the minutes and the reports and the remaining items on the agenda. So I'm going to go to the podium to read the resolutions for the awards. I'll ask the other council people and the mayor and the city administrator to join me. As we call your name, please come up and I'll read the resolution and give you your certificate or your presentation copy. We'll take your picture and then we'll ask you to wait. And at the end, we want to take a picture with all the awardees and the council and the mayor and the administrator. Okay? Try to keep this moving, but. Okay, the first two awards are for the City of Newcastle employees. The first one is Diane Delgado. So her award reads, whereas in February 2024, the City Council approved Resolution 2024-5, a resolution to create City of Newcastle Employee, Citizen, and Business Awards for exemplary service, leadership, and civic engagement. And whereas Ms. Delgado serves the City of Newcastle as the Finance Human Resources Specialist and has worked for the city since January 2016, and whereas Ms. Delgado serves the city in assisting with HR matters and financial matters, along with many other responsibilities. And whereas during the absence of a city administrator, Ms. Delgado demonstrated leadership, initiative, and took on a lot of additional responsibility to ensure the city was able to conduct day-to-day operations. And whereas Ms. Delgado worked to aid in managing the city while the city was in the transition during the city administrator search, and completed the HR support for the search. And now therefore be it resolved that Diane Delgado shall be recognized for the 2024 City of Newcastle Employee Award in recognition and acknowledgement of her willingness to go above and beyond her employment duties to provide exemplary service and selfless leadership to the city, which results in the betterment of the city for all residents, visitors, and stakeholders. And the second employee is Keith Wilson. I believe I saw him here, yes. The opening paragraph in each is the same about the establishment of the award, so I'm not going to read that one over and over again. I'll just go with the individual parts of the award. Whereas Mr. Keith Wilson serves the City of Newcastle Public Works Department as a foreman since November of 2001. And whereas Mr. Wilson serves the city in public works matters such as snow plowing, garbage and recycling collection, sluice gate management, along with many other responsibilities. And whereas Mr. Wilson always goes above and beyond to ensure public works services are completed. And now therefore be it resolved that Keith Wilson shall be recognized for the 2024 City of Newcastle Employee Award in recognition and acknowledgement of his willingness to go above and beyond his employment duties to provide exemplary service and selfless leadership to the city, which results in the betterment of the city for all residents, visitors, and stakeholders. And two more employees. The next is Captain Tina Shugart of the Newcastle Police Department. Whereas Captain Tina Shugart has served the City of Newcastle Police Department since 2007 and was promoted to captain in 2019. And whereas Captain Shugart has consistently demonstrated outstanding dedication, excellence, and leadership in her role as the administrative commander with the City of Newcastle Police Department. Whereas as in any other agency, Captain Shugart's responsibilities would have been handled by several staff officers. Part of her administrative responsibilities include managing the police department operational budget, the application, disbursement, accounting, and final reporting of all state and federal grants, public information officer, recruiting and hiring process, evidence control officer. And whereas operationally, Captain Shugart manages the city's two-person criminal investigative unit, and during the last year, her unit investigated and followed up on nearly 100 felony or serious investigations that included shootings, robberies, sexual assault, child abuse, elder abuse, high-dollar frauds, and 3 cold case homicides. And in many of these cases, Captain Shugart played a significant role with drafting search and arrest warrants, conducting interviews, preparing subpoena responses, testifying at grand jury proceedings, and scheduling intakes with prosecutors. And whereas outside of her assigned responsibilities, Captain Shugart has dedicated her services to many other causes and programs that have an impact on our profession at the state level. Some of her roles include member of the critical incident team that is trained to respond to critical scenarios that are unpredictable and pose a significant risk to people or property. She is also a member of the veterans response team that responds to critical scenarios involving veterans. She's a member of the Child Protective Accountability Commission that meets regularly to evaluate the referral process of children who are the victims of abuse. She's a member of the Delaware Association of Business Security. She's the primary point of contact for our CORE program, which is a partnership with the Community Corporation of Delaware that gives members of our community suffering from substance abuse access to services. She continues to be the point of contact for many community events that include the annual Backpack Drive, the Needy Family Christmas Drive, and the Citizenship Award Program in our schools. Whereas Captain Shugart has had a remarkable impact on the police department, the profession as a whole, the city, and our community, her work ethic and dedication serve as an example for those who serve with and for her. And now, therefore, be it resolved that Captain Tina Shugart shall be recognized for the 2024 City of Newcastle Employee Award in recognition and acknowledgement of her willingness to go above and beyond her employment duties to provide exemplary service and selfless leadership to the city, which results in the betterment of the city for all residents, visitors, and stakeholders. Above and beyond during her 23+ years of service to the residents of the City of Newcastle until the end of her term of service in 2024. Now therefore be it resolved that Janet Carlin shall be recognized for the 2024 City of Newcastle Employee Award in recognition and acknowledgement of her willingness to go above and beyond her employment duties to provide exemplary service and selfless leadership to the city, which results in the betterment of the city for all residents, visitors, and stakeholders. The next 4 awards are the Unsung Hero Awards, which are for residents performing services in a voluntary capacity. The first is to Margot Rain. And again, again, this introductory paragraph's the same, so I'll read the individualized portion. Whereas Ms. Margot Rain serves the City of Newcastle as Planning Commission Chair since December of 2022. And whereas Ms. Rain works hard to ensure that the commission works to fulfill their responsibilities of overseeing the comprehensive plan and zoning code. And whereas the new planning committee chair, Ms. Rain, has provided great leadership to keep this committee going and focused. And now the 2024 City of Newcastle Unsung Hero Award, in recognition of her civic-minded nature and accomplishments through her actions, words, and deeds, furthering the legacy and inherited tradition of the city, and the intricate part in which she plays in enhancing the quality of life of the city's citizens by volunteering and contributing to the building of community and our society through her professional and service-minded endeavors that support humanity. The next one is Suzanne Swift. Whereas Ms. Suzanne Swift served the City of Newcastle on the Playground Committee from 2022 through 2024, and whereas Ms. Swift worked diligently to aid in researching the feasibility of designing and financing the construction of a newly renovated children's playground at Battery Park, and making recommendations to the City Council toward the furtherance of that project. And whereas Ms. Swift led the Playground Committee and the city in completing the Battery Park Phase 1 to upgrade the Battery Park playground equipment and to make the playground accessible for all. And whereas Ms. Swift worked with members of the community to establish the nonprofit Encore Old Newcastle Outdoor Recreation Coalition, and whereas Ms. Swift is continuing her work to improve and make accessible all city playground equipment by pursuing the Battery Park Phase 2 project and working tirelessly to fundraise and pursue grant opportunities to see this work through. And whereas Ms. Swift has demonstrated outstanding energy and efforts in organizing residents, brainstorming best available equipment, having a vision, and raising funds for an amazing accessible playground for kids of all ages and abilities. The city is lucky to have a resident who has spent so much of her time researching, advocating, planning, and writing on behalf of our youngest residents who do not have a voice at the city meetings. And now therefore be it resolved that Suzanne Swift shall be recognized for the 2024 City of Newcastle Unsung Hero Award in recognition of her civic-minded nature and accomplishments through her actions, words, and deeds, furthering the legacy and inherited tradition of the city, and the intricate part in which she plays in enhancing the quality of life of the city's citizens by volunteering and contributing to the building of community in our society through her professional and service-minded endeavors that support humanity. And the next one is Mr. Ron Vukolich, who also was not able to be here this evening. Whereas Mr. Ron Vukolich served and assisted the City of Newcastle on the Tree Area Commission, and whereas Mr. Vukolich worked diligently to research and guide the Tree Area Commission and the city in planting proper trees to ensure the city maintains its Tree City recognition. And whereas Mr. Vukolich worked tirelessly and without recognition to plant trees throughout the city, he personally laid much of the brick for the wells surrounding each tree, ensuring the beautification, and has maintained the bricks, that the beautification was maintained, and the bricks were laid carefully and skillfully, improving the condition of the sidewalk, as well as creating an appropriate space for each tree. And now therefore be it resolved that Ron Vukolich shall be recognized for the 2024 City of Newcastle Unsung Hero Award in recognition of his civic-minded nature and accomplishments through his actions, words, and deeds, furthering the legacy and inherited tradition of the city, and the intricate part which he plays in enhancing the quality of life of the city's citizens by volunteering and contributing to the building of community and our society through his professional and service-minded endeavors that support humanity. And finally, in this category is a posthumous award for Chief Eugene Petty. I understand some of his family are here tonight. Whereas Chief of Police from 1975 to 1983, when he retired from the department. Whereas on October 6, 2015, Chief of Police Eugene C. Petty received the Newark Chapter NAACP 2015 Lifetime Community Certificate at the 19th Annual Freedom Fund Awards and was recognized for the City Council for his accomplishments. During his Newcastle Police Department tenure, retired Chief Petty worked for a variety of assignments from administration to field assignments. Chief Petty is most recognized with his experience in community policing, employee relations, and working directly with FBI Director George T. Quinn from the Baltimore office. As a field commanding officer, then Chief Petty had the opportunity to lead a committed workforce in reducing overall crimes and improving the quality of life in the neighborhoods of Newcastle City. And whereas Chief Petty is the embodiment of the Newcastle spirit, he gave willingly of his time, treasure, and talent to a place he loved that didn't always love him back. Chief Petty served this community for over 70 years as a husband, father, community advocate, Boy Scout master, and master cook, amongst other achievements. Organizations including the International Association of Chiefs of Police, the Delaware State Chiefs of Police, the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement. Retired Chief Petty was also crucial in the restoration of the Buttonwood Colored School Community Center and Museum to its original condition. And whereas in September of 2024, the Chief Eugene Petty Police Accountability Committee was established to appoint members of the community to serve on the board to provide advice to the department on policy, training, how the department engages with the community, and other issues related to or affecting the department and the community served by the department. This was named in honor of the long-lasting legacy that Chief Eugene C. Petty made on not only the City of Newcastle Police Department, but the City of Newcastle as a whole. And now therefore be it resolved that retired Chief Eugene C. Petty shall be recognized posthumously for the 2024 City of Newcastle Unsung Hero Award in recognition of his civic-minded nature and accomplishments through his actions, words, and deeds, furthering his legacy and the legacy and inherited traditions of the city and the intricate part in which he plays in enhancing the quality of life of the city citizens by volunteering and contributing to the building of community and our society through his professional and service-minded endeavors that support humanity. Owned and operated jewelry store in the country. Whereas Bridgewater Jewelers was recognized by the City of Newcastle in 2023 for their 140th anniversary. And whereas Bridgewater Jewelers has built a solid reputation for over 141 years by providing assistance to thousands of customers to meet their unique needs. And whereas Bridgewater Jewelers has survived challenges brought on by economic downturns and a continually changing business environment, while providing services to its customers and will continue to serve customers from the city, county, and state for generations to come. And whereas Bridgewater Jewelers could not have accomplished any of this without its dedication to excellence by the 5 generations of family. James Goslin Bridgewater, founder, Francis Edward Bridgewater, William Burton Bridgewater, Clay and Alice Bridgewater, and Mary Bridgewater Lenhoff. And whereas Bridgewater Jewelers has been a staple in this community since 1883. When you think of Newcastle, you think of Bridgewaters, as they have helped the community celebrate joyous occasions and commemorate solemn ones. And now therefore be it resolved that Bridgewater Jewelers shall be recognized as the 2024 City of Newcastle Business Difference Maker Award in recognition and acknowledgement that their business in the city has taken up the mantle of being engaged corporate citizens and providing quality services to the community. finally, we could do that last. The last one, the second Business Maker Award, or Business Difference Maker Award, is to the Mercury Cafe and Tea House, and again, Mr. Foster was not able to be here tonight. Whereas the Mercury Cafe and Tea House since 2020 has served the city of Newcastle as a restaurant and gathering place for many residents. And whereas the Mercury Cafe and Tea House serves as an unofficial center of town and should be recognized for their outstanding efforts to organize community events supporting nonprofits in the city, providing space for residents to engage while keeping everyone well-fed and highly caffeinated. Whereas the owners of the Mercury Cafe and Tea House, Dwayne Foster and Aaron Vetterman, are often giving back to the community in many ways, specifically the block party to benefit the senior center, the Saturday markets, and the Fourth Friday Art Loop. And now therefore be it resolved that the Mercury Cafe and Tea House shall be recognized as the 2024 City of Newcastle Business Difference Maker Award in recognition and acknowledgement that their business in the city has taken up the mantle of being engaged corporate citizens and provide quality service to the community. And I believe Mr. Vukolich and Mr. Foster each left brief statements, and Mr. Day is going to read the one from Mr. Vukolich.
Thank you and good evening. So Ron writes, in appreciation of the council award, thanks for recognizing work done by me and a fine group of ladies and gents with this award. Many individuals have been involved in the effort to reestablish the village tree canopy. In the past 9 years, the tree commission work, initiated by Tom Maddox, John Antonio, Judy Baldini, Sheila Shannon, and Scott Savage, has continued to move forward with additional help from Norman Lear and Laura Fontana. Laura and other NCCP members were the first supporters of reestablishing the city tree canopy, and with their help, grants from the state, grants from the trustees, improved budgeting from council, and contributions from private donors, more than 230 plus new trees have been planted between 6th Street and the Battery. Norman Lear has trimmed the new trees for the past 5 winters without any expense to the city, and has acted as an advisor to the TAC, the Tree Advisory Committee, excuse me. The primary goal of the earlier tree commission was to plan out Delaware Street, which after 9 years was completed this past fall with the addition of 8 more trees. In all, 74 new trees have been planted between the ferry cutoff and the Battery. Many thanks to the present TAC, Carl Benson, Wolcott Davis, Art Walker, and Alice Reel for providing continuity with earlier efforts in completing the task. To accomplish this goal, the commission decided in 2015 that any new trees planted in the historic district required the permission of a homeowner, even though technically that wasn't necessary since the town owns the sidewalks. Each homeowner or business along Delaware Street was contacted, mostly in person, to secure permission. Initially, 5 persons said no to a tree, but 3 considered after a year or 2. And to this point, no one asked for a tree to be unplanted. So, many thanks for providing an award that recognizes the importance of reestablishing an urban tree canopy and honors the many persons who have helped start the process. Ron Vukolich.
And Mr. Foster with the Mercury just provided a very brief statement. He says, thank you all. I will continue to try my best to run my business, not only for me and my family, but also for the citizens of Newcastle. We love living here and are so grateful for this amazing community. Thank you.
The contractor shall complete all work within 120 calendar days of the notice to proceed. The city actively sent the notice out to various contractors. We received 2 bids on this project, one from Cirillo in the amount of $744,920. The other bidder was Advanced Paving Services, who bid the amount of $325,610. Both bids were responsive in that they contained all of the required materials in the bid. Because of the disparity in the bid prices, we set up a meeting with Advanced Paving Services to make sure that they were aware of the contract specifications and of the contract expectations. We told them of the difference in the bids. We asked them if they wanted to withdraw their bid. They said no. They were fully aware of the contract expectations and they stood by their bid price. So we feel that the Advanced Paving Services is a responsible bidder as well. So, staff recommends that the bid be awarded to Advanced Paving Services.
Have you ever had any dealings with them in the past, or are you aware of work they've done elsewhere?
Not me personally, but once we met with them, our construction management team is aware of work that they've done. They've acted mostly as subcontractors to some of the larger contractors, is what I understand.
So basically, if I'm understanding you correctly, then the people in your team were familiar with their work and that they do quality work and so forth?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions from member of council?
Understand that they're licensed here in Delaware. Is their office here in Delaware? Are they domiciled in Delaware?
I believe that they are, yes.
Anyone else?
Go with the high bid, you get better work.
So is there a motion to take Mr. Rogers' recommendation to accept the bid of Advanced Paving Services? Okay.
We want to do this after public comment in case someone here from the public would like to talk about this in particular, or we don't, it doesn't matter?
I guess, Danny,
We don't need Mr. Rogers to vote on it.
no, we don't, no, we don't.
But at just one point, it is concerning to see that the disparity in the granite curb removed and reset. It's huge. And I know at least one of the one contractor that has bid so high has a lot of experience doing that, so, but.
Just note that because of
Yeah, that is,
your procurement obligations and general standards, you would have to rebid. We don't feel that it would be appropriate to throw out Advanced Paving Services. We met with them and we feel that their bid was responsive and we feel that they're responsible. So if you're concerned about their low bid, you're gonna have to rebid it.
Yeah, Councilperson Day and President Souter, if I may, we did have that concern, which is why we set up the meeting with the contractor to vet them, make sure they understood the requirements. Mr. Rogers and Mr. Rolander, our city engineer, their team, they did review, the work previously done in other areas by APS. And so we wanted to, of course, be as transparent as possible and show you both of these bids, and the ball's in your court for what you decide. But we just want to emphasize the amount of effort that we did to do our due diligence to make sure they were a satisfactory bidder.
okay, I guess my only question is, I don't know how many other cities have granite curbs. Are they different to work with than concrete? Or do they require a different type of expertise, or?
Well, I think the type of work that they're known for is curbing. I'm not in the construction side of our team, our engineer couldn't be here. So they're aware of the specifications regarding the granite curbing. And I just went through the specifications before the meeting, and the contract specifications require that the existing granite that is removed, curbing, is to be retained as much as possible. And if there's any different granite that needs to be brought in, it has to match in both color and texture. Regarding the bricks, existing bricks are to be retained as much as possible. And any new bricks that are brought in to be used have to be approved by the city before they're used in the field. So that's how the specifications were written, because of the you know, the specific historic nature of the city and this type of work.
So any new granite is included in this bid? So when you're doing ADA crosswalks, my experience is that you can't use existing granite or you have to get it cut, which is an expensive ordeal.
Well, I think any new granite would be in the returns. Not,
Absolutely.
certainly, you know, some granite's gonna have to be removed to create the depressions for the ramps. So, it's, you know, in the removal and in repairing the curbing on the radii associated, you know, adjacent to the ramps, that's where the replacement may be needed.
But that's in this bid.
Yes,
Okay.
Because the ramps themselves, of course, are not granite.
No.
correct, it's the concrete with the,
Right,
with the patterns.
the texture to
Yes.
make them less slippery, yes. Like the ones we already have around
Yes.
town.
Question on procedure, to the extent this, I guess, can be answered. Mr. Rogers, Ms. Tintillo, et cetera. In respect to bids, someone gets the bid, are they released a third of the total cost of the contract until it's done? Is it all cash when project is completed and checked? What can you speak to that?
Yeah, it's progressively over the period as the work is completed.
Okay. And there's checks throughout the process?
Yes,
Okay.
our building official inspects these projects as well.
The contractor submits pay requests, and if there's quantities involved, the pay request will delineate the quantities that were used in that particular pay period, plus labor.
And our engineer will assist with overseeing this as well as myself.
Do you want to go forward with the motion now, or do you want to wait?
Madam President, and
Yes.
just on the public comment question, because you reordered the agenda and this is happening before public comment, you should open it up to public comment on this agenda item.
Oh, okay, yeah, because I was concerned that someone from the public may raise an issue that Mr. Rogers would know the answer to and we wouldn't. So, all right, I will open for public comment on this item only, and then we will have public comments on everything else later in the meeting. So, well, if you need you to use the microphone and sign in. Yeah, our general procedure for public comments is you have 3 minutes. You don't need 3 minutes?
I just have a question.
Oh, okay, but please state your name and your address, please.
My name is Brenda Graves, and I live at 29 Christian Road in the subdivision of Boothers. And my only question is, are you guys talking about downtown, or are you talking about the entire city?
Mr. Rogers went through the streets. It's mostly downtown, I think.
Yes, 5th, 4th, 3rd, Market, 2nd, and the Strand.
So you didn't go through Boothers, that's my question.
This contract does not include.
That's what I want.
Okay.
Thank you.
Excuse me, ma'am. How are you? Victor Bryson, I reside at 604 Clark Street in Dobbinville, and I lost 10. You got a pen, man? There you go. Thank you. I come here tonight actually to oppose your boat ramp, but I'm gonna forget.
Excuse me, Mr. Bryson, this isn't on anything other than
Okay, I'm
the
telling you
curbs.
why I come, but I decided not to deal with that.
Okay, if you have
I
something,
just feel that the Cirillo brothers have proved themselves over and over to this town of the quality work they do and the amount of time it takes them to get it done. They are very good contractors, and if this has to go up for rebid, I think you guys ought to really consider that. You can't beat their work. And I'm sorry for scaring you, Miss Allen, that I was gonna talk about your boatyard.
you can talk about the boatyard later, Mr. Bryson.
I plan to, but not
Good.
today.
Oh, not today, okay.
Thank you guys for listening to me.
Sure, I'm sorry.
I wanted to congratulate all the winners of the things, but they all left. Thank you guys so much.
You're welcome, thank you, Mr. Bryson.
You guys.
Mr. Gross?
Yeah, Phil Gross, 1301 13th Street. I guess it's more of a question. Since there's such a big disparity, is there any recourse if the quality of the work isn't done? I mean, is there a certain period of time that they were both told that one, it's gotta get done, and two, that it's warranted?
Mr. Rogers, can you address?
Certainly, there will be contract periods dictated within the contract documents. The work will be inspected by city representatives or AECom to make sure that it's in compliance with the plans and specifications. I believe that there's a warranty, but I don't have the contracts in front of me, but it will have standard AIA contract documentation for construction work.
And the same with the period of completion?
You mentioned a period of completion,
Yes.
that's part of the contract, right?
Yes,
And they were both the same, everything was equal?
the contract dictates the period of completion.
Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else on the curbs or the contracts? Okay, thank you, Mr. Hoffman. Mr. Day?
Yeah, and although I am concerned about the disparity, I do realize that even if we bid it, nothing stops Advanced Paving Systems from bidding the exact same amount that they bid here. So with that said, I'll make a motion, we award the ADA sidewalk improvements 2025-002 to Advanced Paving Systems in the amount of $325,610.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Contract awarded to American Advanced Paving Services. Thank you so much, Mr. Rogers. Are there any corrections to the minutes of the December 9th special meeting? Any comments or corrections?
Motion to approve the December 9th meeting minutes. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The minutes are approved. What about the minutes of this December 9th, or December 10th public hearing and regular meeting? I have some, what are basically clerical corrections. Do we need to go through those, or can I just discuss them with Ms. Grigg later?
Yeah, if it's clerical, nothing substantive, nothing to change, anything.
There may be, no, wait a minute, let me just look. I think it's mostly autocorrect run amok.
Okay. That should be fine. You can just, send that over to us and we'll get that corrected.
I'm just double checking.
Mm-hmm.
No, there's no substantive corrections, they're all clerical.
Okay, no
So I
problem.
can send them over later?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay, so is there a motion to approve the December 10th meeting subject to clerical correction?
I'll make a motion that we approve the December 10th, 2024 public hearing and city council meeting minutes. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The minutes are approved, subject to correction. Okay, next is the treasurer's report. Mr. Wisman?
Yes, ma'am, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I don't really need a microphone, but if anyone can't hear me, just raise your hand and I'll pull it over. Oh, it's for the recording, okay.
Oh, that's true.
All right. Just to summarize where we are right now, this report is for 6 months, ending December 31st, and we have $9,605 and a little bit in the bank as unrestricted funds, and we have $3,330,000 in the restricted funds. Did I say that it was 9 million? Yes,
said
okay.
9,000.
So it's a total of $12,935,000. That's the monies that we have right now. Now, let's talk. whether that's adequate for our needs. On the income side, we have collected, remember this is 50% of the year's done, and we've collected 62% of our revenues. So we're gonna have another 38% of revenues coming in, and that's gonna be about $2,700,000 coming in on top of what we have. Going out, we've expended 47%, so the expenditures are pretty much in line with the evenly through the first 6 months. And so we've expended $3,327,000. So we have about another $3,700,000 of expenditures. So the punchline is that if I were to say we have $12,900,000 in the bank, and those income and expenses aren't going to be that far off moving forward, we're going to end the year in a fairly good position. Doesn't mean that it's going to be good for the following year or anything else. This is just for the current year. We'll be meeting this week to work on the budget for the coming year, and that'll be another issue for another day. But for now, we're in good shape, I think.
All right, thank you. Is there a motion to approve the treasurer's report subject to audit?
So, a motion.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The report's accepted. Thank you, Mr. Briskman.
You're welcome.
Okay. So, the report from the city administrator.
Thank you. Good evening and Happy New Year to everyone. I hope everyone had a wonderful holiday season. Last month, we had the Spirit of Christmas event in the city, and it was wonderful for us to participate in. Our new mobile stage made its debut, and it was beautiful. Thank you to everyone who came out. We are continuing to accept applications for the code enforcement job posting, and we've begun interviewing for the position. The other position for which we are posting for that department has been delayed due to the delays with the code enforcement position. An update will be provided to everyone once this position has been filled. Last month, we advised we were awaiting an update from the railroad regarding the clean out of the ditch behind the shopping center. Mr. Hermes, who presented on behalf of the Delaware Street Railroad Crossing Improvement Project, advised that he received correspondence from the railroad that the equipment was a little bit behind schedule and that they are expecting to complete the work sometime in January. Once I know whether or not this has been completed, again, I'll send an update to everyone. Also last month, we advised that the addition on the rear of the Mount Salem Church was ordered to be removed under emergency as it is decaying and causing some issues due to some low temperatures and the snow last week. They did have some delays in that, but they're working on it this week, and it will be inspected, and once it's brought to compliance, I'll again advise. The floating pier, the contractor, Atlantic Subsea, advised that the dock had been fabricated and the gangway fabrication is ongoing. The fabricator is located in Canada and they are on track for delivery by the end of January. The Atlantic Subsea is tentatively scheduled to begin driving the piles and installing at the beginning of February, and they're going to solidify dates once they have the delivery date. They assured us again that they will not allow the project to bleed into the moratorium period for driving the piles, and as soon as I know more, I'll send an update to council. The work under the citywide paving contract is beginning. We've met with the awarded contractor, Cirillo, to go over the work to be completed. If you see markings on the sidewalk or on your street, it may be because of this. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to our office. Once construction is set to begin, a construction notice will be sent to the residents in the area and will also be posted on our website and on Facebook. Speaking of the website was updated with the large building projects in December, and plans for the upcoming University of Delaware semester with students assisting is underway for website updates. They're going to begin their project in February, and that'll be worked throughout the spring semester and into the summer. We're also working with a University of Delaware Biden School of Public Policy and Administration PhD student who is submitting a request to the university for a summer project and funding. The project will focus on studying and examining the current practices being followed by the City of Newcastle in infrastructure financing and understanding whether any collaborative efforts are being employed by the city in tapping municipal financing and meeting infrastructure needs. A comprehensive report will be prepared, which shall help both the city and the university. It will help the city understand how it can tap new avenues of funding through collaborative governance and community participation, while it helps the university in building knowledge surrounding both research and practice. This will also aid my staff and council in establishing a long-term capital project to plan and financial planning for these projects. We should know if this project will be funded by the end of the week, and again, I'll provide an update once I know more. This won't begin until the summer if we are approved with the student. Regarding the dog park, we did get the second survey quote, which we are reviewing and should be scheduling to complete the survey and the wetlands evaluation of the area within the next month, and this will then be completed to put together the specs for the property and for the fencing and other amenities to be placed on the property. Cost will be around $6,000. Regarding Code Red, our new emergency alert system, it has officially rolled out last week. We thank each of you who've registered thus far and encourage those of you who haven't to register. Should you need any assistance with registration, please contact my office. Information on how to register is available on Facebook, on our website, in the crier that was sent out this week. And there's QR codes, you can text, you can go directly to the website, it's very accessible. So if you need any assistance, just let us know.
Do you have information on how many we had?
Yes, last I checked it was about 152, and I'm gonna get to last week's snowstorm, but as I was sending out the periodic updates, people were registering more and more, so that was great to see. So as I said, we just went through our first snowstorms last week and appreciate the hard work and dedication of our public works team, who diligently worked to ensure roads were clear and trash and recycling were rearranged and picked up in a timely manner, and to our police department for keeping us safe on the road. We appreciate the patience of our residents during this event and appreciate you checking the website and Facebook for updates and Code Red. And just a reminder about Code Red, it allows for multiple forms of communication, text, emails, phone calls, social media updates, and will allow the city to continue ongoing communications with residents. There will be opportunities for you to opt into emergency and general alerts, and again, it's very easy to do. Regarding the city election will take place on Saturday, April 12th. I've met with the Board of Elections Chair and office staff to review all dates for the election and to ensure compliance with the city charter and code and state code, along with election requirements. The notice of solicitation of candidates was posted earlier this month. The filing period is open beginning Monday, February 3rd through Friday, February 28th at 5 p.m. Requests for candidate filing forms are available at the City Administration Office or via email at info@newcastlecity.delaware.gov. Some concern regarding the filing period date has been brought to my attention, as formerly in years past, the city filing period would open in January. Upon review of all of the dates and deadlines, the state requires a minimum filing period of 20 days. We have reviewed the dates and are providing 26 days to file, allowing more than enough time for a solicitation of candidate period. 3 seats are up for the election, Council President Souter, Councilperson Day, and Councilperson Self. Those interested in running for any of the open seats on City Council must comply with state and city code requirements, including must be a citizen of the state of Delaware, must be a resident of the city of Newcastle and have resided in the city for 2 years before the election. At the time of the election, they must be a qualified voter of the city. They must be at least 21 years of age as of the date of the election. They must have never been convicted of a felony. And residents are reminded to register to vote with the state of Delaware by April 7th. You can go to ivote.delaware.gov to register. This information is also available on our website. Absentee voting applications will be available on March 3rd, and the first date to file via absentee will be March 10th. And the first Board of Elections meeting is tomorrow night, January 15th at 6:30 p.m. at the community room at the police station. Regarding grants, in December, we did apply for that EPA grant for solid waste infrastructure for recycling in the amount of a little bit over $850,000. This was to apply for a new recycling truck, recycling bins for all residents, and educational materials and magnets on proper recycling and the city recycling schedule. We will not hear back on whether or not we are awarded this grant until the fall of 2025 or winter of 2026. So please be patient as we await a response. In December, we also completed the work for the hazard mitigation grant that was awarded through DEMA to complete a hazardous modeling for the homes in the floodplain. And ongoing grant applications include additional DTI grants for cybersecurity and homeland security, along with additional grant applications for playground updates throughout the city, a beautification grant with Keep Delaware Litter-Free Alliance and Keep Delaware Beautiful, and are also looking into applying for historic preservation grants. That concludes my report. If you have any questions, let me know.
Any questions for Ms. Tanzilla? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Chief McCabe.
Thank you and good evening. You know, we have something up on the screen here I'm going to share, but before I get to that, if there's no questions with the report, I can jump right into what we're dealing with here. Perfect lead into the nice segue, which Captain Shobart was here to kind of watch this, because this is one of the things we talked about. But this is some data collection for the fourth quarter of the last year, highlighting some of the results of our CORE program. So just as a quick reminder, CORE is it's a collaborative program that we started with CCD. We partnered with them about a year ago using a COSOP grant. With that grant money, we're paying for some peer interventionists and some case management. The concept behind this program, CORE standing for Community Outreach, and I think it's resiliency and engagement. The idea is that anytime one of our officers happens upon somebody that they believe is struggling with substance abuse, we're going to give them access to services that CCD is providing with their peer interventionists. So these are folks in recovery themselves that are very well versed in the system, are very good at networking and identifying what issues our residents are dealing with, and then providing the services that they need. So we're working with the University of Delaware, who is graciously offering this type of data collection service for us. This is called REDCap. And one of Captain Shopar's roles is, as our officers engage with our community, they document or they collect enough data that she can enter it into REDCap and provide an opportunity for a peer interventionist to make contact with them. So you'll see here, just in the fourth quarter, between October 1st and December 31st, we made 76 contacts. That's a pretty big number considering the time frame there. And then what this data does and the way we collect is it shows how many times we've engaged with the same folks. So these 76 are unduplicated. Those are 76 individual connects. Of those 76, 389 interactions with community members occurred. So that could mean that maybe we re-engaged with somebody more than once. And that's really, that's the purpose of this program, is to stay engaged with folks that are struggling. What these peer interventionists do is they identify any kind of insecurities that need to be addressed. This is a no strings attached kind of program. This isn't diversion. This is just us identifying folks with an issue and giving them an opportunity to at least get help in any area that they need. So you'll see if we scroll down, another big number here to look at is 0 refused. We break down based on who we've had contact with what their primary issues are, what they're claiming to have the biggest issue with. So you'll notice, obviously, substance abuse is the highest number, mental health the second highest number. And if you recall, when we first pitched this idea, we recognized that those two pretty much go hand in hand, substance abuse and mental health. We go down a little bit farther, you can see what the breakdown of some of the demographics looks like. 80% of the individuals with the substance abuse disorder are identified as male. 80% white. Individuals having substance abuse and mental health, 63%. Again, that's a pretty significant number. So again, this is early on. we don't have a complete year under our belt yet. I think we're probably, maybe, I think of the 12-month period, I think we've got maybe 8 months of data. As I prepare our annual report, this is a complete version of this will be in that report starting from day one. There may be some holes in that data because we kind of built this as we went. I think we did manage to go back in time and collect as much as we could, but it may not be quite, quite as accurate for the first few weeks. The exciting thing about this is, number one, we're obviously having some impact on our community. But the second part of this is, this goes back to what we've been preaching for years, is that this really is the definition of community policing. You hear community police and you think things like National Night Out, you think events like that. But the reality of community policing is a partnership with members of the community, and we're taking a joint approach at dealing with these issues. So in the past, my experience in this field over 20 some odd years on the road is we didn't have access to stuff like that when I was on the road. All these issues were our issues, and we didn't have the resources to fix it. Our responses were typically, we can arrest them just to try to get them help that way. So this is a unique way of doing things. Now, there are plenty of agencies across the country, certainly within the state, that have similar programs like this. The county has always, Newcastle County has always been remarkably innovative with their programs. This is very unique. Really, I think it's one of the few in the country that I think we may have landed here with something that people might want to emulate. Because there is no diversion, because this is, it's a partnership not only with CCD, but it's a partnership with co-responders with the mental health part of this. It really kind of tackles the whole thing. And we're touching every member of community. They have one SIP. So you may hear arguments about homeless folks that are dealing with substance abuse issues, or food insecurities, whatever. We have access to them now, and we're trying to get them services. So legislating our way out of these things has never been effective. This is community taking a serious role in a major problem. So we're happy with the results. We're happy with the number of contacts we made, and I look forward to providing a better report in my annual. Any questions on this at all before I move on?
Just one. So I appreciate the presentation, and I applaud you for the effort. And I don't believe that there's many other police departments in the state that's our size that are doing something like this program. Am I correct in saying that?
This particular program, yes. There are some, Ellesmere has a program similar, but they've created more of a service center. Georgetown has, I think, something close. Seafort's working on it, but yeah.
I feel like we're the leaders in this, and I do appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. No, we're very lucky to have a partner with CCD and have them in the city like this. They are remarkable. The other thing I wanted to touch on quickly is related to this. We are looking to have a Narcan training event at our police department where we'll train in the use and then we'll be able to pass it out. We've done it once before long ago, but we're going to partner with CCD, and it is actually part of a requirement with our COSOP grant to do this. So you'll see some things on Facebook. We hope we can generate some interest. We want to fill the class. If we don't fill the class, we'll probably push it to another community event. So if you see that, if you can do anything to help share that, that would be great. Last thing I want to talk about is that I know I've mentioned to some of you about this statewide recruiting program that we helped get off the ground. We launched a test drive. Actually, it started at the Spirit of Christmas. I was working that event, and we went live that day. We were the only agency because it was a test drive. So in a nutshell, we're working with two companies, Guardian Technologies and All-Star Talent. And what our overall comprehensive statewide plan involves is a massive marketing campaign that draws attention to the state and the collaboration between the police agencies. Highlight the good parts about Delaware, the uniqueness of each county, the uniqueness of the different agencies, the size, the types of policing, and identifying all that. And we have some really fantastic videos that we put together as a state to show that, and they turned out remarkably well. So they launched those videos with an ad campaign. They gave us 48 hours, and then they shut it down. This campaign draws them into a landing site through an app on their phone that basically you answer, if you express interest, I'll give you a QR code. You're gonna get an application that says your first name, last name, email address, and cell phone number. You hit send. That comes to me in this app, and it automatically triggers a response to say, thank you for your interest in Newcastle City Police. Click here to fill out your comprehensive form. Once I see that, and I was doing this all day long at the Spirit of Christmas, I hit approve, I send them to Guardian, where they fill out this application. And then they land in a separate Guardian page that we monitor, and again, this is another one of Captain Shugart's jobs, is we monitor the landing page. I bring this up to say this. Since I was promoted to chief August of 2018, between now and then, I would say that a high estimate of how many applications we've reviewed would be 50, and that's high. Before I got home from the Spirit of Christmas, I had 50 in the box. In 48 hours, we had 335 candidate leads that led to 199 applications, which led to 20 complete PHQs, which is the entire background package. I haven't seen 20 completed background packages in the last 10 years. So, and it's an online platform that does so many wonderful things that as we go in there, before we even spend a nickel, it's in a triage center, and AI is behind the scenes highlighting some of the answers to their questionnaire and throwing flags up to say, take a look at question 6. Somewhere in there, they may mention that maybe they were fired. Or take a look at question 8, it looks like they may have been arrested for a felony. And so we can screen these folks before we send them into background and spend a nickel. We ran this just ourselves for 48 hours and had that type of success. So we went live with about 14 or 15 agencies last Friday night or Saturday night. We had to shut it down after a few hours because we were finding some glitches. But we should, by the end of the week, be able to do this. Our goal is to put the QR code that draws applicants or candidates to this page on our website. This company has given each agency their own QR code, and then there's a separate QR code that takes them to the state website where they have the opportunity to select from whatever agencies are participating. So like I said, right now we have about 12 that have onboarded. There are a handful that are working on onboarding because this is a big commitment. Once, as you can imagine, managing 300 applications can be a little challenging. So the other thing that I want to mention is this was done out of the state. So it was done more as a test. So a lot of these folks that were applying were coming from far away. So what we're learning is that the interest in this is starting to build back up in this profession. And now we think we found kind of a key to streamline this process. Because this generation right now, if it's not on their phone, they don't want to look at it. And we're going to meet them where they are, and that's the goal. So we're thrilled to be able to be, one, the test drive in this, but two, I think this is going to create a constant flow of applicants, or at least interest. Once we're up, I am going to share something on Facebook, and I would just ask that if you're ever confronted with somebody that has an interest, and it doesn't have to just be with us, if we can find a way to get that QR code to them. We're going to send messaging once we are at full strength that says, thank you for your interest. We're at full strength right now. Please go back to the state website, look for another agency that has some openings. We may even be more specific and say, please look at Selbyville, or please look at Seaford. They're 10 officers short. Feel free to start, wherever we decide to land with that. So I just wanted to share that with everybody. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Okay, council communications. Mr. Mataway.
Thank you, Council President. Good evening, everyone, and Happy New Year. Excuse me. Just have a few updates. Saturday, February the 8th from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. we'll be having a community blood drive that will be hosted at the Goodwill Fire Company. There is a website that will be circulated where people can sign up in advance, and certainly the Blood Bank of DeMelva will accept donors the day of. Thank you again to our partners at the Goodwill Fire Company. In November, at the council meeting, I mentioned some of my outreach efforts in respect to the Environmental Protection Agency and WMAPCO, and just wanted to provide some updates for the community. I recently had a great conversation with Mr. Brackle, who is the acting chief of community involvement for the Mid-Atlantic region with the EPA. He's looking forward, along with his team, to come out to our community to provide some updates and statuses on Superfund sites and remediated locations within our city proper. Really looking forward to working with city administrator, and council president, mayor, et cetera, to make this a community event where people can ask questions and also be involved. This particularly is mission critical for a lot of reasons. First, it's necessary to communicate and to share information with residents that they can, and where they can ask questions and also have a forum in which they can follow up with. And then secondly, it's mission critical and vital in respect to our comprehensive plan, where information should be overlapped in respect to the Superfund sites that are active and or ones that are remediated. For example, in a comprehensive plan, we should have some context around tracking for these sites and locations from a resource perspective, in terms of understanding what happens or what has happened with them, but then also from an environmental perspective and an opportunity to receive grants and funding for sites and locations that have been unfortunately affected. Please stay tuned. Again, the target for that is spring or the summer. And then in respect to WMAPCO, they came out over 20 years ago and did a walkable community workshop. I've made contact with the representatives who will come out. They want to come out to see what has changed positively and or negatively to help guide us and give us some real solutions. And again, we're looking for community feedback and community input, and looking forward to working with the leadership within the city on that. And then finally, I would like to thank City Administrator Tantillo for her efforts and partnership before December, but in December last month it was recognized that the city was awarded an innovation grant for transportation, and I want to thank you for participating in the meeting and the grant, et cetera. It was a pleasure to work with you. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Mr. Adway. Ms. Giselle.
I just have one thing, the code red alert, it was great. So I'm one of the 152. It was very easy to sign up, and I was very excited that those notifications come out. So if you haven't signed up, please do. It's an easy way for us to notify you of what's going on, tell you about the changes in pickup for garbage and recycle. So it was very nice.
Thank you. Mr. Day?
Yeah, just one point I wanted to make, that I believe the legislation for the awards that were done tonight was really started by Councilman Mataway, so I would like to recognize him for that and thank him. I think it was a great idea, and I'm glad we got to do it.
Thank you, Joe, but I really want to thank the people. The city is run with money, but powered by people who work for the city, people who live in the city, and the businesses that reside here. So kudos to all those wonderful people.
Anything else? Okay. Okay. I have a few brief things. First, I'd like to thank everyone involved with the planning and work on Spirit of Christmas. It was a great event. It raised money for several good causes, including our Historical Society. I also appreciate people being willing to open their homes for tours. I know it's a lot of work to prepare for this, but it was very popular. There were lines in front of most houses as I was going around. I did the tour, and I think we hit all the houses. We had a family member visiting from Phoenix, and she was very impressed. I'd also like to thank the trustees of the Common for their work to rebuild the shoreline and repair the Riverwalk. If any of you have been in the area, you may have heard a lot of banging and seen rocks being moved around. It's a big project, but we appreciate them taking the necessary corrective action, because the river was actually eating away the soil under the walking path, and so it was starting to collapse. And instead of just patching where it had collapsed, they're doing it right and trying to fix the shore patch, put the rocks and it's called riprap, the different sized rocks, to protect the shoreline from the river during storms. Pardon me. I'd also like to congratulate Ms. Tantillo, our city administrator. She's been selected as the vice president of the City Managers Association of Delaware. Her participation in this organization benefits Newcastle because it gives her the opportunity to share ideas with managers of other cities. And her selection as vice president shows that she has the respect of her peers and is, I see it, a recognition of her leadership ability. So kudos to Ms. Tantillo. And finally, I also wanted to thank Public Works for their prompt action on the snow removal. While the snowstorm, we didn't get as much as other parts of the state, we still needed to be cleaned up, and we appreciate their efforts and that they did a good job to make our streets safe. And also another thank you to the trustees. Us dedicated walkers along the river appreciate the fact that they had someone plow the path. So we didn't have to slip and slide on the ice. And that's all I have. The mayor?
Good evening and Happy New Year. And how many people have already stopped with their resolutions? 'Cause yeah, and they say they don't really go past about 11 or 12 days into the new year, except for those very dedicated people. I do echo Council President Souter's thanks for the spirit of Christmas and all of the work that goes into it. I thanked our city workers at our holiday party because while Spirit of Christmas has a group of people organizing, our houses are open, and we appreciate all those people, we really do, because I wouldn't open my house. Our city workers are behind the scenes. They're setting up, they're breaking down, they're cleaning up, and they do a fantastic job. The code red, I appreciated all the notifications. I've been home for the last few weeks, so it was nice to see it. Luckily, I didn't have to appreciate the fact that it wasn't icy on the roads if I was out walking. If you didn't get a chance to see our mobile stage, it is a thing of beauty. And I really appreciate the ease in going up the stairs that weren't rickety at all. And also a thanks to our police and our fire department for Spirit of Christmas and any involvement they had with the antique out there. That's always, I had some gentleman who was talking to someone and he was like half under the antique admiring something with the undercarriage, and I didn't know what that was. So thank you all who do everything for our city and to make things work, and also to City Administrator Tantillo for her Vice President of the City Management of Delaware nomination and award. Thank you.
Okay, comments from Goodwill?
Staff. Before I get into our report, I'd like to introduce Deputy Chief Bako. He's going to give a brief introduction of himself, and that we put a name to a face.
Hi there, my name is Terrence Bako. I'm a new resident of town since June. I live at 616 Delaware Street with my lovely fiance and, as of tonight, 2 Cocker Spaniels, which was a trick. Here we are. I've been in the fire service since 2008. I started as a junior member in the Lewis Fire Department. That's where I grew up. I have family ties here, though. My grandfather is Bob Short. My grandmother is the late Mary Lou Short. My mom is Lisa Short. So that's that. So I've been up and around here as a kid for a while. I work in the city of Wilmington as a full-time fireman. I work part-time with the Longwood Fire Company. I'm also a state instructor. So I'm pretty invested in the fire service. Handle a lot of operational stuff. I'm a lead instructor for thermal imaging cameras for the state and also fire attack and engine company operations. So I'm super excited to take on the role. was a chief officer at Lewis for a little bit before I moved. So here I am, and I love living here. I love the fire company, and I like the culture. So thank you for having me, and super excited to help David lead.
Thank you. You should have in your packet our December monthly report, as it reflects as a rather broad overview for tonight. 134 fire rescue incidents for the month and 207 EMS incidents. That brings us to a year-end total of 1,345 fire rescue incidents and 2,083 EMS incidents. That's a total of 3,428 calls for service for 2024 in the calendar timeframe. That's a 9% increase in fire rescue services and a, believe it or not, 1% decrease. That's not because there's less people calling 911 for ambulances. Instead, it's a cultural change within the fire service that more fire companies are staffing additional ambulances. So, good and bad there, you know. Are there any questions about the December report? No. Just wanted to follow up. Thank you all for your support of another year of Santa events. And we did have an incident on Saturday, December 21st, that required a coordinated response between fire, police, and EMS. The fire department staff, along with Chief McCabe's staff, made a significant life-saving effort of an injured hunter who was in a remote location. And undoubtedly, that gentleman's life is saved because of everyone's actions collectively that day. So a huge shout out to both Chief McCabe's staff and the Goodwill staff that was on duty that day. Following up on that, obviously with the incidents that are going on in California, there was a lot of talk about their water supply situation currently. Mayor Leary reached out and asked me to maybe just give a quick recap on the drill that we did back in April of 2024. So with that, just some high-level notes. I guess the first thing to understand is that the water supply system used by California and the LA Department of Public Works and Municipal Services system are inherently different for a lot of reasons that I can't describe. I just know that they are different. So our goal for this incident or for this training event was to ensure that our pre-incident plans in fact worked, because while we have all the trust in municipal services, we have a great partnership with them. We understand that catastrophic things happen, usually at the worst time. So we wanted to be prepared for that. So what we did was we set up 2 draft sites, which essentially drafting for us is when we utilize the fire pumps and the fire engines to pull water in from a static source, as little as swimming pools, as large as oceans. It's all applicable in the same sense. We used that to 2 different draft sites to supply 2 different quote-unquote fire scenes. One of them was 3,000 feet of supply hose, and the other was 2,000 feet. So collectively 5,000 feet of hose. During a 2-hour evaluation process in which we were evaluated by a third-party organization, we moved, I just lost my notes here, just under 300,000 gallons of water, or 2,500 gallons per minute. So we have plans in place so that should some catastrophic event ever happen, should some overwhelming event ever happen in the city, we are prepared for it, not only in the historic area, but in our remote locations as well. So not only does this drill conduct a test of one of our pre-incident plans, this year we have another drill on tap that will not be in the downtown area, that will focus on a more rural setting, which some of our area is considered, especially as you move south of Dobbsville and Grantham Lane. So there is a report published by the third-party organization that evaluated us. If you're interested in seeing it, I can share copies of it. It's not a big deal. It's very interesting. It's very technical, but it's informative. So, any questions from council or staff?
Just a quick one.
Sure.
And this may be just a lack of knowledge on how it works. Should there be a large incident elsewhere in the county, would we be able to assist in filling a tanker relay? Like they would come here, we refill from the
So
river, or?
the short answer is yes. The long answer is it has to be in a close proximity.
Okay.
There's a, believe it or not, there's a very specific mathematical equation that goes into that of how far you can and should drive to get water, how many tankers you need, and ultimately what your fire flow is going to be. So yes, we can. I am sure the MSC would have no problem with that. We can set up a draft site, fill tankers from the river if needed, but yes, we can help with that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's good to know that you're prepared.
Thank you.
Looking forward to this day. I did a lot of research into a serious topic on behalf of the residents currently and the ones in the future, and also out of love and respect for all the ones that have come before us. While I was looking forward to this day, we have a colleague who usually sits to my left, who was dealing with a day that he was not looking forward to. He's out of the country dealing with the death of a family member. And I don't think it's right for me to continue with presenting this serious topic